Hey everybody! What a day! What a day! What a day! What a day! I hope you're doing well. I am doing ecstatically well. We are having this sort of interim live stream, waiting for Lee Steinberg, none other than Lee Steinberg, my longtime friend and sports agent, who is going to talk about his clients, but he's 30 minutes behind. So I thought, well, since Lee is behind, why don't I take a little bit of time here to fit in a discussion that's burning up the internet, or at least part of it, or at least the part of it that's part of the that's focused on the NFL, or at least the part of it that basically has to do with the Raiders and the NFL draft, or at least the part of it that has to do with the NFL draft, right?
The Raiders and the NFL
and you would say, okay, what's
draft, or at least the part of it that has to do with the NFL.
And you would say, okay, what happened? Now, if you're here and you don't know, let me tell you, okay? It all started now about 4 hours ago, I would say, when yours true, not yours truly me, but yours truly, would he be yours truly if you pointed to him as yours truly as opposed to him saying it? But Ian Rapport, Ian Rapport of the NFL Network, who put out a tweet that was, I think it's fair to say, the tweet heard around the football world. There's a reason why he has 1.86 million followers, in large part because he's become the NFL's mouthpiece. And so, in that position as the NFL's mouthpiece, when he puts out something, I take it as the NFL line because I've worked with the NFL enough and with people at the NFL Network enough to know, not everybody, but I work with people enough to know that when they put out something, it's because they believe they have legal approval to do so. And there are certain things they don't talk about, like, for example, race issues, because the league openly does not, well, openly with respect to relationship with them, doesn't want them to do that. And I can't tell you who told me this, but a number of people have explained to me, hey, look, I work for the league. There's only certain things I can say. Now, put that in the context of what I'm about to read to you that Ian Rapport tweeted out now at 9:21 in the morning this morning. Sources: Raiders coach John Gruden and general manager Mike Mayock sent their scouts home for the weekend, and they are not expected to return by draft time. The belief is they don't know who to trust and wanted to clear the room. Now, look, this paragraph has to be taken in two parts. The first part you would think is okay because it seems like a magnanimous decision to send people home ostensibly with pay and food in their bellies who've done a great job, right? That part is GM Gruden and Mayock sent their scouts home. No, their scouts home for the weekend, and they are not expected to return by draft time. But the second part of this is very sinister. The belief is they don't know who to trust and wanted to clear the room, okay? Now, I have my own feelings to say about that. I have my own take on that. I want to share. Hey, Bible study, how you doing? Welcome. And it's actually, you can read it in the info, but I will actually read it to you. It goes like this. The Oakland Raiders managerial dysfunction was revealed today when NFL Network's Ian Rapport issued a tweet that read, sources, #Raiders coach John Gruden and general manager Mike Mayock sent their scouts home for the weekend, and they are not expected to return by draft time. The belief is they don't know who to trust and wanted to clear the room. Seriously. And I go on. This is awful. And for one main reason. The Oakland Raiders failed to have their employees and contractors sign non-disclosure agreements. Without that, someone, undoubtedly one of the dismissed scouts, let it slip that the Raiders took this action. The Oakland Raiders are a private for-profit company. They don't have to disclose what should be considered as private personnel matters. To the degree that this got out to the public, it was done for one reason: to make it look like the Raiders have zero idea what they're doing under head coach John Gruden and general manager Mike Mayock. This is something that never happened when Reggie McKenzie was general manager. For all of the slings and arrows Reggie McKenzie took for some of his NFL draft moves, I hope now everyone sees why Reggie won the award of NFL Executive of the Year by the Pro Football Writers. many of those seasoned NFL observers know how an organization is supposed to be ran, and it's not like this. All of this mess started when John Gruden arrived. Coach Gruden was the one who brought in his own scouts, creating a divide between his people and Reggie's people. Eventually, Reggie was pushed out, and reportedly, his folks too. Now we have Gruden's people, and it seems like they can't get along with Mike Mayock. All of this was less than a year in the making and all made public. It's a fair bet one of the people behind the leak is Dave Rosano, the Raiders' director of football research, and a man famous for silly tweets saying that stars like Cam Newton were not going to succeed and basing more value on Blaine Gabbert than Newton. And we all know how that turned out. So somewhere in the world here, Miami, Reggie McKenzie is smiling as he prepares with the Miami Dolphins for the 2019 NFL Draft. And with that, I await your chat commentary. And the Geek Freak, how you doing, Geek Freak? The Geek Freak writes, don't be surprised if they flop on those first round picks. Yeah, I mean, what bothers me again is that the Raiders would take this kind of action and not have any control over what their scouts say or do. So these guys are leaking information. This didn't happen because Ian Rapport had a beer in the morning and said, oh, you know what? I think I'll screw the Raiders over and I'll put out a tweet. No, he will get fired for that. And all that, it came from not just one person, it came from sources, plural. A number of people talking through NFL circles, and it came back to him. This was talk, and I see how it's done. It's more like, it's not talk, it's text. Because there's a lot of people in the NFL network, I'm not going to say who, communicate with these giant text groups. They're like sewing circles. And the exchanges fly fast and furious, okay? And it's without a doubt that grouping, one of those groupings, contained that Raiders leak. Someone in that group talked to somebody else, it got passed down, and it went up the food chain and out the door to Ian, and Ian published it. Boom. There you go. But in all of this, it says to me, two things. A, the Raiders have no organizational control whatsoever. No non-disclosure agreements. Nothing that says, hey, you know what? If you are found to have leaked this, we can sue you for damages. All right? I have clients that if this sort of thing happened within their organization, they would be looking for someone's throat to rip out. Okay? That's how serious this sort of thing is. And yet you have a number of these folks around who say, oh, well, you know, it's not a big deal. Not a big deal. Anybody who tells you that this sort of action is not a big deal has never ran a corporation for themselves and never held a position of responsibility in any company whatsoever. This is a huge deal. Okay? Again, this is a huge deal. It is left for the Raiders to do nothing but damage control. And what damage control do they know but going to some people in the media and giving them an explanation behind the scenes that makes it in such a way that it makes it sound like reporter A, B, or C knows what's happening and put that out. But the simple act of a news person doing this makes it worse. Because the news person that's doing this shows their own organizational naivety by broadcasting that idea. The Oakland Raiders, I don't care if they're bound for Las Vegas at some point, but the simple fact of the matter is this. The Raiders right now are locked into the San Francisco, Oakland Bay Area, the home of tech. What does that mean? For me, it means the home of the non-disclosure agreement. You've got VC left over here, VC right, Joe Lacob over there, who's also a venture capitalist. Anytime they talk about something that they want to keep within a circle of conversation, they have you sign a non-disclosure agreement. You sign the agreement, you don't break it. Okay? Those are all over the place. Anybody who tells you in tech that you should not sign a non-disclosure agreement is trying to use you, because they're going to take your idea, pass it to someone else, refashion it, and voila, it's their billion-dollar corporation, not yours. So in this environment of secrecy, in this environment where people understand how to keep secrets, you have the Raiders under head coach John Gruden and general manager, and I might add, organizationally naive general manager Mike Mayock. Because, hey, look, everyone pays attention to the fact that Mayock has done all this research, right? But you bring him in an organization where you got Dave Rosano as the director of football research. Well, if you got a guy who's done research all the time and he has his own people he wants to bring along, and he is, you know, with a guy who's already doing football research, who perhaps doesn't have a great relationship with him, or not a great relationship, but I mean a meaningful relationship with him, there's bound to be some type of rub. Add to that the insecurity that Mayock brings because he's new to being a general manager, new to running an organization. This is the first organization that Mike Mayock has had to run of any consequence. He's been a football player and a broadcaster for a long, long time. But head of his own startup? No. Senior executive in somebody else's organization or corporation? No. Okay, he hasn't been that. And so he has to now fake it until he makes it and hope that people don't see through him but he is honest and say, look, these are things I don't know. But when you're in the heat of battle against people who feel like they know better than you do, they're liable to say anything if they have license to do so. And in the Raiders organization, it's a fair bet they do. So, hey, people don't have great relationships. You don't trust people you don't have great relationships with. That is a house of cards structure upon which to build an organization in any walk of life. It doesn't work, okay? It doesn't work. So the Raiders have some soul searching to do going in here. And again, they could come out and, look, they have 3 picks. Theoretically, it's pretty hard to screw up this draft. I can't see them doing it. Well, that's not true. I could see them doing it theoretically, but I don't want to believe it's possible, all right? I don't want to believe it's possible, okay? The Geek Freak says, hey, it could happen. I don't want to believe it's possible. Okay? All right? But I'm opening up the possibility that could happen. I really am. And so, as I said, if you run an organization, all right, do you want people out there talking about your dysfunction? No. You don't want that. It doesn't matter that, it's routine if they change scouts. At this juncture, it looks ridiculous. It looks ridiculous for other people to talk about your action just days before the NFL draft. I have never seen that under Reggie McKenzie at all. And again, I repeat, Reggie McKenzie must be smiling. He has got to be smiling. No question about it. No question about it. Can anyone watching this name me one time where Reggie McKenzie had anything remotely look like this? The only example of any kind of, in general, stern and drum was when Reggie took the action of firing Hugh Jackson. And I didn't like that action. I was directly candid with Reggie, who I like a lot. I really highly respect him as a person and as a football executive. But I felt as an African-American football executive, he should protect one of the handful of black coaches, Hugh Jackson, in the league, let alone in football in the United States. And we talked about it. He said something to me, Reggie did, that I'll never forget. He said, Zinni, I hear you, but sometimes you got to like the people you're working with. There you go. A lot of that spills over into this situation. But again, I say this. What Reggie did, he did in a way where the action was taken. It was smooth. There was no rumblings of discourse like there are now, right? He just took an action. Next thing you know, he was gone. And then everyone was left to figure out what the heck happened afterward. Prior to that, it's clear skies. You had no idea that I had no idea. You had no idea that Reggie and Hugh didn't get along with each other. Okay. But that was the case. But they never, not only did they not make it public, no one talked about it. There was enough respect within the organization to keep the shit in house. You hear what I'm saying? Keep it in house. We now have two examples of John Gruden not keeping Raiders discourse in house. The first time was when it was revealed that he was bringing in his own scouts, including David Rosano. And you had these two worlds. You had Reggie's scouts and John Gruden's scouts, and basically the two weren't talking to each other. That happened last year, folks. Again, that happened last year. So now we have what? Dysfunctional example number 2 within a year, okay? Within a year. Meanwhile, what does Reggie McKenzie do? He lands on his feet with the Miami Dolphins and the fantastic owner, Mr. Stephen Ross. Okay? So who got the better out of that deal? Looks like Reggie did, because he's not with an organization where people are consistently looking. This has been a Raider problem for some time, looking to stab each other in the back. All right? If there's anything I would have hoped ended at some point during the history of the Silver and Black, it's that. I've had interns tell me about that problem. I've had countless numbers of people tell me about that kind of organizational behavior within the building there. And I say this not with glee. I say this with sadness, because there are a lot of people in the Raider organization I'm just not like, but I love. From the front office secretary when you come in to greet, the front office assistant, to Cheryl Nichols, to Mark, to, and even though Mark has issues with me, I don't return that favor. I like Mark, okay? To Gruden himself, to the chefs there that make the meals, to the security people that work there. I mean, there's so many people there, to people who worked for the organization and then went on to be successful in other walks of life, including sports agents and captains of industry. So my point is, there are a lot of great people that I've come to know within the Raider organization that are fantastic. But the organization itself has had this problem where it was said by one person the way to ascend was by, character assassination, okay? Well, ta-da, here we go again. We have had that on steroids with John Gruden as the head coach. And John's got to get that under control. All right. So anyway, I'll be back. I'm going to go back and get Lee Steinberg on. So I'm going to close out. And the Raider Gans, hey, Raider Gans, I apologize. I scrolled down and then saw your comment. Raider Gans says, Reggie was the fall guy, but he should have kept Hugh. No, unquestionably, he should have kept Hugh. He really should have. I think that if he kept Hugh, he would have realized they start off with an 8-8 record. I think they would have gotten the playoffs the next year, maybe even head to the Super Bowl. I think Hugh had the right combination of personnel, management acumen, and scheme expertise to make that happen. I don't agree with the Carson Palmer decision, though. All right. They had the right guy with Jason Campbell. You should have just stuck with him. He really should have. But giving up a couple of first-round picks, That was boneheaded. Okay, I'm sorry. That was just boneheaded. And it may very well be where if Reggie parted company with Hugh in part because of that, I get that. Okay, I mean I get that. Okay, because Hugh is a great guy, but there are some times when you just wish he would listen to certain things. All right. Of course, a lot of people say that about me too, but whatever. Um, but I say this: I have to stop and give Reggie McKenzie his credit for running a smooth organization. And yeah, we can debate who he should have kept as head coach. You have to admit that he did have some great years with Del Rio. Let's face it, Jack Del Rio did get the Raiders into the playoffs. John Gruden has not done so. So hopefully, we keep saying hopefully this is the year. But the neat thing about starting a year anew, a season anew every single year, right? A new NFL season is hope. You start off 0-0 and you haven't even played game one. So you have the right to say, hey, my team is going to the Super Bowl. Fine. But after you've done this year after year after year, or you do it the first year and maybe you don't quite get there, is one thing. But to fail after so much hype and getting so much money, oh, if someone handed me $100 million, I would not approach any aspect of football in a conventional way. All right, folks, I got to get out of here, but I'll see you in a second because I'm going to get a hold of Lee Steinberg, who should be ready now in 3 minutes. So by the time I get out of here, then get back on Skype and fire him up, we'll be good to go. All right, we'll see you soon. I can't wait to ask Lee what he thinks about this. Ooh. Okay. See you all.